programming project. In this project is we are creating 15 we're creating a puzzle, a 4x4 grid that has an image with one tile in the grid missing and one grid missing that is used to move the other images around. The game should use JavaScript, CSS, and HTML to accomplish this task. So for the HTML structure, we make an HTML layer that accurately depicts the grid and displays the tiles correctly, and buttons and links. For the CSS style, the CSS will ensure that the fonts, the design are in line with the requirements of the project. It will also ensure the correct parts of the background image is shown on each tile. And for the JavaScript, which takes care of the logic, will ensure that the project has functionalities and will assist in changing the backgrounds and moving the tiles around and shuffling the board. So we use a Scrum methodology. We implemented daily stand-ups for 15 minutes, used the Kanban board and addressed any blockers we had. And we had what we did the day before and what we were doing today. This drastically sped up the workflow and made things much more easier.
So overview of solution. The basic idea behind the app is to create a 15 puzzle that the user can shuffle and solve and have different backgrounds for, and we create a JavaScript for moving the tiles and highlighting which tile could be moved, and changing the background and all other general functionality of the game. So the CSS is used to set the style of the text and used to display the correct part of the background image on a tile.
The HTML code, way we designed it was the drop-down bar allowed the users to select different backgrounds for their puzzles. The puzzle grid holds the actual puzzle in its own div class. The shuffle button shuffles the puzzle, and the validator links are shown as well.
Okay, for the CSS code, the puzzle cell CSS just defines the criteria for the puzzle cells and sets the fonts and colors. The movable piece CSS is there for when the user hovers over a piece that can be moved. And the links CSS just align the validator links correctly. The puzzle cells have a data attribute, which is what is used to correctly display the part of the background that is needed. So it uses background position to change the view of the image that is shown. And then that links to the JavaScript, and you basically swap around the background images to move the puzzle pieces.
Cool. Now we'll dive into the JavaScript. So the first part of the JavaScript file is just initializing all the variables. So you have like the grid size, then we have a function called createPuzzleGrid, which I'll go over in a little bit. We create a couple of other variables. The empty cell, X and Y variables just track where the empty cell is in the grid. The puzzle values also is just another variable that just tracks where the puzzle values all are. These move left, right, up, and down. These are just like convenient ways for us to generalize what like a left movement, a right movement, an up or a down movement is. And then we also have a current background variable, which keeps in mind what the current background is. So let's dive into the create puzzle grid. So basically the way that this works is first we get the puzzle grid actual class, then we go through and we create all of the cells, and then on each of the cells we add an event listener for click, for mouse over, and mouse out. So what the click does is, if you actually click on the cell, then it's going to see if you can move like a white space there, and if you can, it'll move it. The mouse over just checks to see if that cell can be highlighted, and if it can, then it'll go ahead and highlight it. And then the mouse out is just if you remove the mouse from the cell, then it's going to remove the highlight. So that's basically just what the create puzzle grid does. So the highlight movable piece code, this is pretty simple. It basically just makes sure that the empty cell is, around is around the actual pieces that you're looking at, and if it is, then it'll go ahead and add the class movable piece. And then once you remove, again, it checks for that mouse out event, it'll go ahead and remove the movable piece class. So the next thing we want to look at is the initial function that's actually called when the program is started. So this is the initialize puzzle. So what this does is it first sets up all the background options, and then it gets a random one of those background options each time that the page is loaded. And so it'll set a random background based on that. And then the puzzle values, these are just like set using this create initial values function, which we'll go over in a second. And we'll also go over the shuffle puzzle and draw puzzle. So the create initial values, this basically just goes through the grid and gives each of the cells a value from 1 to 15. So pretty straightforward there. The shuffle pieces, so again, we have the moves that we mentioned at the top of the file, move left, right, up, and down. And then we just randomly, 30 times, we'll just move the white space around, and this will shuffle the board. We found that doing it 30 times works pretty well. And then we call the draw puzzle, and the draw puzzle is what actually displays the puzzle on the screen. So the make move is a pretty simple function. It basically just, you pass in which move you want to do, so move left, right, up, or down. And then based on that, it'll first check to see if, moving the piece in that way would go outside of the grid. And if it doesn't, then it'll go ahead and actually just move the cells around correctly. This is the draw puzzle. So the draw puzzle actually is what creates the grid each time. And the biggest thing in here that we want to look at is for the blank cell, if we get a value of 0, which is the value for the blank cell, then it'll set the background color to white and it'll set the image to none. But otherwise, what it'll do is if the value is not 0, then what it's going to do is it's going to check which one that is, and then it's going to set the correct background based on what the tile number is. The next part is the handle cell click. So this basically just makes sure that you have that the tile that you're clicking on is one within range of the blank tile, and if it is, then it'll go ahead and swap places with the blank tile. So pretty simple there. The draw puzzle is called after the make move in order to re-render the grid, and then we have the is puzzle solved, which basically just makes sure that the puzzle is actually solved, and we'll go over that logic in a second. And if it is, then it displays this pop-up alert. So the is puzzle solved is pretty simple. You basically just go through each value in the grid and make sure that the value in the tile is the correct value. So it'll go left to right, top to bottom. It'll check that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 15. And if it is, then it goes ahead and returns true. Now we'll go ahead and dive into a demo. In here now we can also select different backgrounds. So each time we refresh the page, it'll show a different background randomly generated. And then here we can go to background 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So we have all 4 backgrounds. We can click shuffle to shuffle the board. And then here, we can see the 14, 3, 9, and 15 tiles all have the correct highlighting showing up. And if we click on the tiles, we can move them around correctly. And the game functions as is intended. So that's all. Thank you.